Seventh narrative in a letter from Mr. Candy. Frizinghall, Wednesday, September 26th, 1849. Dear Mr. Franklin Blake, you will anticipate the sad news I have to tell you on finding your letter to Ezra Jennings returned to you, unopened in this enclosure. He died in my arms at sunrise on Wednesday last. I am not to blame for having failed to warn you that his end was at hand. He expressly forbade me to write to you. I am indebted to Mr. Franklin Blake, he said, for having seen some happy days. Don't distress him, Mr. Candy. Don't distress him. His sufferings, up to the last 6 hours of his life, were terrible to see. In the intervals of remission, when his mind was clear, I entreated him to tell me of any relatives of his to whom I might write. He asked to be forgiven for refusing anything to me, and then he said, not bitterly, that he would die as he had lived, forgotten and unknown. He maintained that resolution to the last. There is no hope now of making any discoveries concerning him. His story is a blank. The day before he died, he told me where to find all his papers. I brought them to him on his bed. There was a little bundle of old letters which he put aside. There was his unfinished book. There was his diary and many locked volumes. He opened the volume for this year and tore out, one by one, the pages relating to the time when you and he were together. Give those, he said to Mr. Franklin Blake. In years to come you may feel an interest in looking back at what is written there. Then he clasped his hands and prayed God fervently to bless you, and those dear to you. He said he should like to see you again, but the next moment he altered his mind. No, he answered, when I offered to write, I won't distress him. I won't distress him. At his request I next collected the other papers, that is to say, the bundle of letters, the unfinished book, and the volumes of the diary, and enclosed them all in one wrapper, sealed away with my own seal. Promise, he said, that you will put this into my coffin with your own hand, and that you will see that no other hand touches it afterwards. I gave him my promise, and the promise has been performed. He asked me to do one other thing for him, which had cost me a hard struggle to comply with. He said, Let my grave be forgotten. Give me your word of honor that you will allow no monument of any sort, not even the commonest tombstone to mark the place of my burial. Let me sleep, nameless. Let me rest, unknown. When I tried to plead with him to alter his resolution, he became for the first and only time violently agitated. I could not bear to see it, and I gave way. Nothing but a little grass mound marks the place of his rest. In time the tombstones will rise round it, and the people who come after us will look and wonder at the nameless grave. As I have told you, for 6 hours before his death his suffering ceased. He dozed a little. I think he dreamed. Once or twice he smiled. A woman's name, as I suppose, the name of Ella, was often on his lips at this time. A few minutes before the end came, he asked me to lift him on his pillow to see the sun rise through the window. He was very weak. His head fell on my shoulder. He whispered, It's coming. Then he said, Kiss me. I kissed his forehead. On a sudden he lifted his head. The sunlight touched his face. A beautiful expression, an angelic expression came over it. He cried out 3 times, Peace, peace, peace. His head sank back again on my shoulder, and the long trouble of his life was at an end. So he has gone from us. This was, as I think, a great man, though the world never knew him. He bore a hard life bravely. He had the sweetest temper I've ever met with. The loss of him makes me feel very lonely. Perhaps I've never been quite myself again since my illness. Sometimes I think of giving up my practice and going away and trying what some of the foreign baths and waters will do for me. It is reported here that you and Miss Verinder are to be married next month. Please to accept my best congratulations. The pages of my poor friend's journal are waiting for you at my house, sealed up with your name on the wrapper. I was afraid to trust them to the post. My respects and good wishes attend Miss Verinder. I remain, dear Mr. Franklin Blake, truly yours, Thomas Candy. Eighth narrative, contributed by Gabriel Betteredge. I am the person, as you remember no doubt, who led the way in these pages and opened the story. I am also the person who was left behind, as it were, to close the story up. Let nobody suppose that I have any last words to say here concerning the Indian diamond. I hold that unlucky jewel in abhorrence, and I refer you to other authority than mine for such news of the Moonstone as you may, at the present time, be expected to receive. My purpose in this place is to state a fact in the history of the family which has been passed over by everybody, and which I won't allow to be disrespectfully smothered up in that way. The fact to which I allude is the marriage of Miss Rachel and Mr. Franklin Blake. This interesting event took place at our house in Yorkshire on Tuesday, October 9th, 1849. I had a new suit of clothes on the occasion, and the married couple went to spend the honeymoon in Scotland. Family festivals having been rare enough at our house since my poor mistress' death, I own, on this occasion of the wedding, to having, towards the latter part of the day, taken a drop too much on the strength of it. If you have ever done the same sort of thing yourself, you will understand and feel for me. If you have not, you will very likely say, "Disgusting old man, why does he tell us this?" The reason why is now to come. Having then taken my drop, bless you, you have got your favorite vice too, only your vice isn't mine, and mine isn't yours. I next applied the one infallible remedy, that remedy being, as you know, Robinson Crusoe. Where I opened that unrivaled book, I can't say. Where the lines of print at last left off running into each other, I know, however, perfectly well. It was at page 318, a domestic bit concerning Robinson Crusoe's marriage, as follows. With those thoughts, I considered my new engagement, that I had a wife. Observe, so had Mr. Franklin. One child born. Observe again, that might yet be Mr. Franklin's case too. And my wife, then. What Robinson Crusoe's wife did or did not do then, I felt no desire to discover. I scored the bit about the child with my pencil, and put a morsel of paper for a mark to keep the place. Lie you there, I said, till the marriage of Mr. Franklin and Miss Rachel is some months older, and then we'll see. The months passed, more than I had bargained for, and no occasion presented itself for disturbing that mark in the book. It was not till this present month of November, 1850, that Mr. Franklin came into my room in high good spirits and said, "Betteredge, I've got some news for you. Something is going to happen in the house before we're many months older." "Does it concern the family, sir?" "It decidedly concerns the family," says Mr. Franklin. "Has your good lady anything to do with it, if you please, sir?" "She has a great deal to do with it," says Mr. Franklin, beginning to look a little surprised. "You needn't say a word more, sir," I answered. "God bless you both. I'm heartily glad to hear it." Mr. Franklin stared like a person thunderstruck. "May I venture to inquire where you got your information?" he asked. "I only got mine imparted in the strictest secrecy 5 minutes since." Here was an opportunity of producing Robinson Crusoe. Here was a chance of reading that domestic bit about the child which I had marked on the day of Mr. Franklin's marriage. I read those miraculous words with an emphasis which did them justice, and then I looked him severely in the face. "Now, sir, do you believe in Robinson Crusoe?" I asked with a solemnity suitable to the occasion. "Betteredge," says Mr. Franklin with equal solemnity, "I'm convinced at last." He shook hands with me, and I felt that I had converted him. With the relation of this extraordinary circumstance, my reappearance in these pages comes to an end. Let nobody laugh at the unique anecdote here related. You are welcome to be as merry as you please over everything else I've written, but when I write of Robinson Crusoe, by the Lord, it's serious, and I request you to take it accordingly. When this is all said, all is said. Ladies and gentlemen, I make my bow, and shut up the story. The end.